other car carrier people in an M1 zone in our town besides me. Right now, it looked like I'm the only guy with an M1 zone car carrier guy renting my building. Now, I asked a question, I want an answer.
Well, you'll get an answer in due time, but you're going to finish your remarks, we're going to move on, and you'll get your answer.
All right, well, I'm going to give you this stuff here.
That's going to be marked as an exhibit.
Yeah, I can give you these because I got copies. All right. Because there is another car carrier in town in an M1 zone. And everybody sees them every day, parked right on Route 5. Are they getting the same treatment that I'm getting? These regulations were done based on me. Sign, road. See, this morning there was 3 of them there. I took pictures with a can of throwaway, but nobody does our photoing anymore. CVS, they all gave it up, so I couldn't get them done, so I had someone come out, and they took these pictures, went back to his office, and printed them off for me this afternoon.
When they were taken this morning, you said, today?
They were taken around 12 o'clock. This morning, there was 3 car carriers sitting there. When I took the other pictures, so if I
And where is this?
It's right on Route 5.
And, well, right, where?
Right across the street from the Sunoco station.
Okay.
Right at the driving range, it used to be there. All right, and they've been parking there for years. Their office is down in Warehouse Point. Okay? So are they getting the same treatment as me? I'll bet you if I'm going to call the guy tomorrow and ask him. I'm going to call him tomorrow and ask him. I've said right along it's the witch hunt. And I'll stick by that till the day I drop. What you'll see there is you'll see the trailer of one trailer, okay, a trailer of one truck. This morning there was 3 of them in there, and by the time my guy got there to take the pictures, they had left, and one of the tractors went somewhere. Maybe he took it somewhere to get tires put on or whatever, but he left his trailer there. But it's obvious that it's a car carrier trailer. It carries cars, that's what it was built for. I've seen them with farm tractors or whatever else on them. You see them hauling all kinds of motor vehicles.
Mr. Dearborn, we're going to mark that as an exhibit from you, respondent. I think it's 3, 2 letters in this one. And you saw the pictures.
Are these yours?
I guess those are yours. He gave them to you.
Them on the wall.
Okay, I think we're going to move along with the rest of our hearing. And nothing else?
Well, I got some other, I don't know how to handle this because I've never been here before on these circumstances.
Neither have we.
Okay, it's a learning process for us, but there's some things.
Uncharted territory.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right, we'll try not to sink the ship. There's some things that were said, and I think they need to be cleared up too, just like they want to try to clear up their stuff. Is the reporter in here tonight?
Yeah, you have it right here.
All right, this is basically, I'm talking to him a little bit here, okay? You know, Kyle, I don't mind you writing about me in the paper. I don't care what you say about me in the paper, okay? But when you write things, try to make it so that the people understand what you're saying. Some people that saw this article said it was a little discombobulated. They couldn't make some heads or tails of this thing. And I'm just going to go over this one little area. It's about this big. I just want to read it to you so you understand what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm not trying to put you down, nothing, but I want you to write stuff so that people understand it out there. All right? It says right here, the first line, it says, I think this is a monkey's job. Well, the way people looked at me as was, they think I meant being a selectman is a monkey's job, okay? I'm proud to be a selectman here. I really am. I think it's an honor to be a selectman in my town, okay? What I said with that was, I think being a liaison and going to these meetings, night after night after night, every night, some of these people go every single night. And come back and do a report, and there's nobody there to listen to it. And people don't care, like I'm a liaison to the WPCA. Do you think these people give a damn if there was 2 sewer hookups last week? Nah, they want to know what's going on out there. So, all right, so that's what I meant by when I said I think this is a monkey's job. It had to do with the liaison position and not being a selectman in this great town of East Windsor. Okay. Then you go on a little bit further, where it says, I think people want to hear what's really going on in town, okay? And I report on things that are going in town. People don't like it, whatever. And then it says, I was elected by the people to help them, okay? People come out to my farm, I call it the second town hall. Because they come out there and I listen to them. When they tell me they go to the town hall and they're not listened to. I shut everything I own off. I shut down everything. I get off my machine and I stand there and I discuss their problems. Okay? Well, it says here, by these people to help them. Okay, elected by the help. Okay. And then it goes on to say something. They want me to speak for them, okay? Then it goes, I'm afraid of the zoning department and what they're going to do. Well, it sounds like maybe me. Well, that's not me, it's the people. People don't even want signs on their front lawns or at their businesses at election time because they're afraid of retaliation and they tell me this stuff. This is not made up stuff. So, when it says here, I'm afraid of zoning the department, that is not me. Those are the people that come to me and ask me to do things, okay, because they're afraid, okay? And then it goes on to say, I'm not afraid of anything. Well, that's me. Okay, that's me. You should have put Dearborn said, I'm not afraid of anything. All right, you put my name in there when I say stuff so people know who's talking. All right? And that's about what I wanted to address with you here a little bit, you know? Just so you get everything right, okay? Print it right.
Mr. Dearborn, I'm going to have you confine your remarks to the issue at hand. And
all right, and then
when
you
argue with the reporter, you go right
well, we
ahead.
need to get them on it true and
You
there.
do that,
So it
you
doesn't
do that
I
after
want
the meeting.
people
We're going to finish, try to wrap this up as soon as possible. And the more you talk extemporaneously with people, it's just going to drag this out. You're not getting your story across.
Well, I did to him, and the story was supposed to be for him. So
We're going to continue on, and I'm not going to allow any further discussion like you just had. It's irrelevant to our decision-making process.
all right.
Irrelevant.
The other thing that didn't.
We're not going to consider it when we make our decision, so you're wasting your time. Talk about the
I
issue.
really don't care what you consider about what I
You don't
say.
care? Okay.
I really don't care.
Good.
All right, I'm in here because I was dragged in here. Okay, now there's another thing we didn't discuss. We never got into and I kind of know why. Complaint number 3. We never talked about it. It was mentioned very briefly at the last meeting. Very briefly. Incompatible employment. So I guess we can talk about that because that's a complaint. Number 3. Okay? It says here that Steve Dearborn is making a hostile and awful working environment. Okay? First off, I never talked to those 2 people. All right?
You're referring to Laurie, Whitten, and Robin.
Okay, I'll start saying names so we know what we're
A lot of
doing.
people
for the
in the
record.
room.
I guess that's what we have to do, right? Okay. All right. I never talked to Laurie Whitten or Robin Newton. I always have my attorney talk to their attorneys, or I have my soil guy engineer, surveyor, Guy Hesses. He'll do my talking. Those people do my talking. The only time I go and talk to them, and I think I talked to them just recently, probably for the first time, I don't know how long, 2-3 years. I brought my application in, renewal, for my special use permit over there where I make the mulch. So I brought in the as-built that I'm supposed to do every year. I brought in my money. I brought in was the last year of 3, the wetlands delineation. We had to put some plants around the pond. So George Logan has to do a nice report. He takes pictures. He does the whole thing. So I had to give him that, give him my money, and the application along with the as-built. And the only thing I say is, I want a receipt. I get my receipt and I walk out that door as fast as I can. Because, and the other thing I want to get clear too is they had mentioned that they are not allowed on my property. That is not true. They are allowed on my property when they make an appointment with me so that I can have a witness with me. Okay? I have to have a witness with me. I have to have somebody by my side when they show up out at my place. Because they've been there and we've talked and things sounded good, and when I got the thing in the mail, things weren't good. So that's why an appointment has to be made. And I have to have a witness to verify everything it says and it goes on out there. To cover me, to protect me. All right, that's to protect me. They came out, I let them come out one time, I was busy at that time to be. I said, yeah, go ahead on, I don't care. So I did, I let them go out on their own without me even being there, you know. But they seem to have a habit of bringing a police officer. Now, you know something? I have never hit a person in my life. People say I look mean and ornery and pissed off. Yeah, I know I do. All right? But you know something? I have never hit anybody in my life. I spanked my boy once. Okay? Now, to me, that's just a defamation of character when they bring that police out there to make me look like I'm some kind of a criminal. All right? And so on with this thing here. I don't know how I'm creating a hostile environment when I don't even talk to them. I don't even like looking at them. Okay? But I want to talk about something else.
You're referring to home, please?
I'm referring to
Laurie
Whitten and Robin Newton. Now, if we're going to talk about hostility in the workplace, okay, I did ask Denise Menard. I've been trying to catch up to her for 3 days, but I guess she was out sick for 2. And everybody gets sick, you understand that. Don't feel good, you can go to work. And went in there today, she was in a meeting or whatever. And, you know, I'm busy, I can't just hang outside the door like, you know, some guy in San Francisco. But, so I had left a message in her office and asked her if she would bring 3 things to me. Okay? Now, I don't know what the tolerance is in the employee handbook. I think East Windsor people get an employee handbook. I was told it says in there is tolerance 0. There's 0 tolerance for any kind of aggressiveness and all that in the workplace. Okay? Those 3 pieces of paper that I asked for today were reports from 3 people in that town hall to an incident that happened in the copying room. Okay? Happened in the copying room. And I'm just going to come out and say it because it is public information. I have the police report right here.
Mr. Dearborn, I'm
But
going
this-
to interrupt you right here
Go ahead.
because it's not public information. information.
Yes,
It is a personnel matter. It's been handled already.
It has not been.
It's not going to be allowed.
It has not been.
Not going to be allowed.
And this thing took place in a
Out of order.
I don't care if I'm out of order. You're trying to hush me up because you were told to, and that's why it wasn't talked about in the motion
on the floor. We have a motion.
I'll tell you what, you guys do whatever you want, because I know what's going on.
All those in favor?
Do what
Any
you gotta
opposed?
do.
We're going to go into
Really don't
recess.
care.
Thank you.
Close this meeting up and do what you gotta do, because you're trying to hush it up for our first select. And it was me and police report is public, and it was, all this happened in a public room in that town hall, not in a private office. You do what you gotta do. Because this is nothing more than a kangaroo court, and that town attorney right there is so illegal sitting here. Another attorney told me that if you had a brain, you would be out that door as fast as you could go. I ain't putting up with this kangaroo court. You do what you gotta do. I don't really give a damn.
I have a couple of questions based on what Mr. Dearborn said. The photographs that were presented, I think they're respondents three of, no, that's, I don't have, do you have the car, yes. He said, Mr. Dearborn said that he took, or someone took those photos today at a location in East Windsor, and they show what he says is a car hauling business of some sort. This is what he said. Are you aware of any car hauling business taking place at wherever that location is?
Well, I don't have a location on here. I can see the Sunoco across the way, and I can see a farm here. I'm not aware of any. That doesn't mean there's not something approved there. I would have to check files and records, and we've not received any complaints on it, but I'll consider this a complaint and look into it if he's claiming that there's something going on there.
So if you don't know, how do you find out in general whether someone is violating the town's rules or regulations? I know it's in planning, zoning, or wetlands management.
Usually through a complaint in our office, or typically the building official might see something and tell me, or I can see something on my own and go back and research it. So any one of numerous different ways.
All right, so this is the first time you've heard of this other
Yes.
alleged car hauling. Okay. Mr. Dearborn said, well, started to say that I think he said, I don't know, it's difficult to understand, whether or not he was saying that he did not create a hostile work environment because he doesn't talk to you, doesn't even like to look at you, and will not interact with you. Can you respond as to how he created a hostile work environment if he doesn't talk to you, look at you, or interact with you?
Well, it's written out in our complaint, but to just very shortly reiterate, to not take too much time. The hostile work environment is him using his position, his elections report to call for the outsourcing of our departments, the firing of staff, saying that we're not knowledgeable, we don't know what we're doing. Again, fully spelled out in the complaint what it was. No, he does not talk to us directly.
it's been extended to November 13th, 2015, so it's still valid. And it's between, the contract is between the town and All American Waste Limited Liability Corporation. Okay, I have a few questions regarding these issues that came up about that. Okay, now, remember, we're not seeking your opinion on any issue. We simply want to learn the relevant facts related to the ethics claims made against Mr. Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn. And could you, for the record, before I forget, could you state your full name and your home address
Leonard Norton, 15 Barberville Road, Broadbrook, Connecticut.
and your position with the town?
Public Works Director, Town Engineer, Tree Warden, Facilities Maintenance. Can you move the mic closer? Can you move 4 inches closer?
I don't think the mic will go any closer.
Oh, fine. Oh,
Just, there you go, that's better. Okay.
well, just like you were.
It's like Don Ho, okay. All right,
Don't ask me to sing.
all right. We're gonna speak about some Christmas tree recycling that was going on. And are you familiar with the town's contract for hauling Christmas trees?
Yes.
And you have a copy here in front of you. And, let me see. Is this the contract that the one you're holding?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dearborn mentioned USA Hauling, but this is a contract with All American Waste. Is this the only waste hauling contract that the town has in place?
USA Hauling and All American Waste are owned by the same people, if you will. If I can get it straight, I think USA Hauling is the actual trucking of the material, and All American Waste is the trucking, and USA Hauling, I'm not sure. It's the same company. They're owned by the same people. One has to do with the actual picking up of the, whether it's refuse and recycling, and the other has to do with the disposal of it, whether it's recycling or refuse or Christmas trees.
So essentially, it is the only waste hauling, but they're bifurcated.
Yes, yes.
Two parts. Okay, the contract on page 2 of this exhibit provides that the town will be charged an annual fee of $11,000 for Christmas tree and leaf collection. Is that correct, to your knowledge?
It's page
2 of it.
exhibit A.
Okay.
I can't swear to the number without being on the right page, but yes, there's a. Exhibit A. Oh, exhibit A, okay.
Page 2.
Page 2. Alrighty.
It should be a.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm there.
And you see there where we're charging an annual fee of $11,000 for the Christmas tree recycling and leaf collection.
It's a combination between the Christmas trees and the leaves.
The contract
Actually,
provides.
it's twice. It's a spring and fall collection and the Christmas trees.
Gotcha. And the contract provides for dumping fees for town buildings, but you don't see any fees for Christmas trees. Do you know whether a dumping or tipping fee is charged for the disposal of Christmas trees? So,
I know how that works.
could you please explain?
I could. The USA, All American Waste, they are contracted by us to pick up the leaves, any fall yard waste, and the Christmas trees. What they do with them currently, or what they had done, was they would bring them someplace legal to dump them, and it was, it's now called Harvest New England, which is the old green cycle in Ellington. And they bill the town directly for the trucks that go in from East Windsor for USA. So USA did not include any fees to us for the dumping. It was directly from Green Cycle or Harvest New England. They provided simply the trucking, the pickup, and this bringing it to the disposal facility.
Okay, so whether you bring 10 loads a day or 1 load a day, it's the same. It's just.
Well, no, Harvest New England will bill us by either the ton or the cubic yards.
Okay.
They will bill, if one truck goes, it's gonna be different than if 10 trucks goes.
Okay. some point in time, did Mr. Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn, discuss with you his desire to have Christmas trees that were picked up by the hauling contractor and delivered to his mulching business on Newberry Road, is it?
Yes.
Did he ask you to do that?
He asked if they could be brought to that
Do
facility.
you remember the time frame of that? What time that was?
Well, it had to be around December, because we picked them up,
Last year?
2014.
Okay.
In that time frame, sometime in the Christmas time frame, because it was for the Christmas trees that would have been put out in January, that we picked them up like the second week of January.
Mr. Dearborn was the sitting selectman at the time. I think so, right? Okay. What did you say to him? What was your response to him?
Well, he came in and said that he would take the Christmas trees for free instead of us paying to bring them to Green Cycle. What I said was, number one, I wasn't sure if although they bill us direct, I wasn't sure if USA had any kind of an agreement with Harvest New England. So I had to check on that because I wasn't going to get in the middle of, I don't know what kind of deals USA has with where they bring any at their disposal, and it doesn't matter as long as it's going someplace legally. And that I would talk to, Denise about it, the first selectman. So,
Well, then that kind of leads into this. Are you aware whether or not Mr. Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn, discussed this with the first selectman, Denise Menard, at any time?
that, I don't know if he discussed it.
Are you aware of whether or not an agreement was struck between Mr. Dearborn and the town hauling contractor for the hauling contractor to deliver Christmas trees to Mr. Dearborn's mulching business?
Well, once we had determined that there was not a contract that we knew of to be disposed of in any particular place, I called USA and asked if they cared where they were going to bring the Christmas trees. And they said they didn't care where they were bringing them as long as it wasn't a farther distance than where they were going with them, because they had an agreement with us that, they didn't want to haul to New Haven for the same money.
Yeah, of course.
So, and they kind of indicated, I said, well, there's someone in town that would take them for free, and they said, free is good. So, what I did at that point was I asked the gentleman, do you mind if I give Steve Dearborn your contact information so that he could contact you and you two can discuss it, because I didn't need to be in the middle of it, and the town of East Windsor didn't need to be in the middle of it. It was a function of, you're going to pick up the trees, you have to get rid of them. I don't care where you bring them. There's someone who will take them for free. You two need to talk and decide if you can work it out. And that was the end of it. He said, that's fine. I gave his contact information to Steve. And I guess the Christmas trees went there. I mean, I didn't get a bill for them, so I'm assuming they went there, but I never saw the trucks drive in there. So I guess I can assume that they came to some agreement.
Okay, thank you. Did Mr. Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn, pay for the Christmas trees? Maybe you don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay. Did All American Waste reduce the contract price to the town due to the delivery of Christmas trees to Selectman Dearborn?
No, and they wouldn't, because it was just a delivery issue, not a disposal
Okay.
issue.
So there's no benefit to the town for his service?
Well, there was a benefit to the town, so we didn't have to pay to get rid of the Christmas trees.
Okay. Was the delivery of the Christmas trees for his mulching business ever put out to bid to any other contractor? Do you know?
Well, normally you put something out to bid if you're paying for it. This was for free. I don't think we can get less than free. Unless someone would pay us for them, I guess that's possible.
All right. We need to go on record, that's all. Do you know whether Mr. Dearborn taking the Christmas trees from the hauling contractor saved the town money on the town's tipping fees?
Yes, it went from whatever it was to zero.
Did the Board of Selectmen ever discuss Mr. Dearborn taking the town's Christmas trees for his mulching business?
I couldn't tell you. I don't go to all the selectmen's meetings.
Okay. Did the Board of Selectmen ever vote on Mr. Dearborn taking the town's Christmas trees for his mulching business?
Again, I couldn't tell you. I don't go to those meetings.
Do you know how much money Mr. Dearborn made for selling the mulch for the Christmas trees?
No.
I understand. Okay, the answer is no.
No.
Norton, can you tell me from past practices, a rough estimate of how much would have been paid to harvest, just a ballpark?
Ballpark
round
figures
figure,
around
I mean,
$400,
10 bucks or?
probably around $400. I
$400.
know that because I talked to someone from USA that has 380 or something. It's around $400 for rough numbers.
Okay, thank you.
For the year.
For the year.
For 2013 was 300 and something dollars, almost $400, and obviously 2014 was zero.
So it's down.
Thank you.
Right. On our budget, it's a lot.
Tom, Nancy, I'm yes.
Would you have expected that decision to be voted on? What decisions that you made do you expect to need the selectmen's approval for?
Well, number one, I didn't make a decision. The only decision I made was to put Steve Dearborn in contact with USA Hauling. That's the only decision I made. I did not endorse the trees going anywhere, because honestly, I don't care where they go, as long as they go to a legal dump site, and free seems to work.
So,
That's the only, all I did was connect two entities, I guess, two businesses.
if anybody else had gone to you and said, I'll take it for free, would you have connected them?
Absolutely.
Kelly, all set? Kathy, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, Lenny, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, next, we're going to start with the selectmen in order, and I see most of them here tonight. The rest, is Jim here? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Denise, you're spared. For a little while. Board, the commission up here has decided we're going to call Jay Ursery. Is that I pronounced your name wrong. Ursery, I'm sorry.
Mark Simon, that's okay.
Yeah, Simon's in. Thank you, Jay. And have a seat. You have to be sworn in. If you just raise your right hand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Oh, and would you state your name and address?
James Ursery Jr., 33 Glenwood Road, Ellington.
And what's your business title or your title, Jay?
I'm a partner in the firm of J.R. Russo and Associates. We're consulting engineers and land surveyors located on Shore Road here in East Windsor.
Stand by, Jay. Thank you, Josh. Okay, Mr. Ursery, does your business ever require you to visit the planning and zoning office?
Yes.
Were you ever present when Scott Transportation, Andrew Scott, visited the planning department to discuss his proposed use of 95 Rice Street, Broadbrook?
I did visit the planning office with Mr. Scott. I'm not sure if his name was Andrew. I think it may have been Andrew's dad.
Okay, whatever.
I think it was his father. I think Andrew's a younger gentleman, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. But the fact is you were at the business
I was,
office to
yes.
discuss the use of the 95 Rice Street.
That's correct.
business. Do you recall what was explained and what was the proposed use was?
Mr. Scott called me because he was interested in obtaining a motor vehicle repairer's license. He was housing his trucks at the Rice Street location, He had a full-time mechanic that was there doing repairs on his own equipment, although he did not have enough work to keep him busy all the time, and he thought that if he had a repairer's license, he could advertise and actually bring business to the location to keep his mechanic busy. He knew he needed a license to do that. He needed a special permit and a site plan approval, and he was advised to contact our office that we might be able to help him, so we made an appointment at the planning office and went and spoke with Laurie Whitten about that.
Okay. When you did that, did Robin Newton or Laurie Whitten, the town planners, indicate at that time that his proposed use was acceptable? Do you remember that?
I don't believe Robin Newton was there when we met. I think we met with Laurie in her office. I don't know that we discussed the use specifically. It was more the repairer's license that we were talking about. And my recollection was that due to the location of the property, it was zoned correctly, but the access to that property is through a private right-of-way between residential residences. And it was her opinion that because of the access to the property being between two residential locations, that this would be an intensification. And she thought that the Planning and Zoning Commission probably would not be in favor of this type of a location to intensify the use. So we actually left it at that and left her office, and he did not pursue it any further than that.
Jay, can you give us an estimation or exact time, if you could, date, or this happened?
Well, to be honest, I looked. I'd never charged Mr. Scott. It was an initial visit, so there's nothing in the computer system where we would have generated an invoice. But if I had to guess, I'm going to say it was 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. It was quite some time ago.
Okay. Did you accompany Mr. Scott or representatives? You just explained you did. Scott Transportation to the Planning and Zoning Office, and you confirmed that?
Yes.
And you spoke to only Laurie Whitten?
Laurie Whitten, yes. I don't believe Robin was there.
And you, and again, the next question you already answered is, did you inquire about allowable business on 95 Fry Street, Broadbrook? You did?
Yes, we did.
You did say. Did anyone in the zoning office explicitly say that what businesses were allowed or not allowed in East Windsor at that time?
Not that I recall, no.
What was the name of Andrew's dad when you went to the?
I think it might have been Wayne. I'm not positive, to be honest, but I can tell you that the gentleman I was with was older than I, so I'm going to say he was in his late 60s, maybe early 70s.
And on the timing, if we can somehow put a little bit of better time, 2 to 3 years ago, if you can, was it, is there anything that would help refresh your recollection regarding how long ago it was? What time of year was it?
I don't remember.
Okay. And the Scott Transportation people never retained you?
No.
Do you know whether Scott Transportation ever filed any type of application for a permit?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And do you know whether they ever went before the Planning and Zoning Commission to discuss their desired use?
Not that I'm aware of.
Were you ever involved with any discussions between Mr. Dearborn and the Scott Transportation representatives?
No.
Is this the extent of your involvement? This
Yes.
meeting with Ms. Whitten?
One meeting, yes.
One meeting.
One meeting at the planner's office.
All right, and so just to summarize then, you met there with Mr. Scott, maybe Wayne Scott. He stated his intention to create a repairing business there. Is that right? Auto repairing.
Truck repair.
Truck repairing.
Yes.
What about hauling?
No discussion of hauling, no. Truck repair.
Did Mr. Scott ever ask you about the viability of a truck or auto hauling business at that location?
No.
Was it ever discussed with you?
No.
And to the best of your recollection, hauling of autos or trucks was not discussed on that one occasion with Ms. Whitten?
I don't think so, but I really don't remember. I mean, I knew what Mr. Scott did. I'm very familiar with him. He actually was sent to me by one of his clients, so I knew he hauled cars, and I don't know was a car hauler, he knew he was a trucker, I don't honestly remember, because we were there to talk about a repairer's license.
What is the business of Scott Transportation?
He hauls automobiles for in and out of Southern Auto Auction.
So when cars are sold at, or purchased, either way, at Southern Auto Auction, he's one of these flatbeds that then, or multiple car carriers that then haul them from there to wherever they're being delivered to.
Correct.
And are you aware of whether he ever stored or operated out of the 95 Rye Street location?
Yes,
How do you know that?
he told me.
You know when he operated in that capacity?
When we met at the planner's office, he was operating out of there at that time. It was, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago.
As a hauler?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you know whether the town zoning regs permit auto hauling as a permitted business?
I can only say that I have looked in the regulations since all this started, and I don't see it in there, specifically where it talks about automobile hauling businesses. In fact, I don't know that I can find where it talked about any kind of a hauling business, but there's certainly not any truck hauling businesses in the town of East Windsor. Quite frankly, to me, hauling cars and carrots is the same thing. I don't know what difference it makes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Laurie, Whitten, or Robin, do you have any questions of the witness? None? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ursulou.
Thank you. Free to go?
Yes.
Thank you.
Leave that on, just leave that on. Mr. Roberts, okay. George, would you mind just stand, please? Just stand up and raise your right hand. Josh, I will swear you in.
Oh, sorry. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You could, Mr. Roberts, you get the microphone right out. It's easiest because you gotta kind of get close. Okay. Yeah, we got it. We're on. Mr. Roberts, if I could just give you a preamble here. We're not seeking your opinion on any issue. We simply want to learn about the relevant facts related to the ethics claim made against Selectman Dearborn. And no opinions, no guessing, and all that stuff. And can you state your full name, please?
George Roberts,
And
Jr.,
your address?
8 Autumn Lane, Somers, Connecticut.
And what's your title in your business or whatever you want to
For All American Waste, I'm Director of Municipal Services.
Thank you, sir. Can you describe the type of jobs you're contracted to do for the town of East Windsor?
Yes, we do refuse and recycling hauling, and we do disposal of the MSW and recyclables.
Do you collect Christmas trees from residences as a contractor for the town?
We do.
Can you explain what is normally done with the trees after you collect them?
Yes, we've in the past taken them to Green Cycle, or currently Harvest New England, and they are charged by the cubic yard, and the bill is direct to the town of East Windsor.
How much is that bill?
For Christmas of 2013, it was $380.
Have you ever been asked by Mr. Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn, to deliver Christmas trees to his place of business on Newberry Road?
No.
What was your response? It was no, you said.
I said no.
Okay, just make sure. Need to get it on the record. Okay, Tom, you have anything?
Okay. So you said no, but you want... I could pass the mic. response to the chairman's last question regarding whether, I don't remember the exact question, whether or not you were requested to have Christmas trees delivered to Mr. Dearborn's business, you said no.
No, he said that, was I asked by Mr. Dearborn to have the Christmas trees delivered? I said no.
Okay.
Mr. Dearborn did not ask me to deliver Christmas trees there.
Did Mr. Dearborn ask anyone at is it All American Waste?
If you want, I can tell you the scenario.
Go ahead, tell us the scenario.
Okay, that's easier.
That's easy.
Less painful.
Yes.
I received a call from Len Morton, and it was around Christmas time.
Of what year?
That's going to be 2014, okay? Asking me if it would be a problem if I were to take and deliver Christmas trees to Mr. Dearborn's site. And I asked him where it was, and he says it's in town. I said, that's no problem, because again, it's a it's a quoted thing for mileage and whatever. So I said, that's no problem. He says, okay, let me see if I can make that happen, or I'll see if it can happen, whichever way it was. He called me back probably a few days later, and he said, okay, is it that we can deliver them there? So what I did is I just had him call Jimmy Donnelly. Jimmy Donnelly is my guy. He's my operations manager on the South Windsor, and that's where we run the trucks from to pick up the collection from East Windsor. That's where we run most of our municipal contracts from for All American Waste. So I'm assuming Glenn got a hold of Jimmy. I talked to Jimmy afterwards, and he said, yep, we're all set. I know where to go. And I can't tell you if it was Len that told him or Mr. Dearborn that talked to Jimmy and told him how to deliver them, but he was told how to deliver them, and we therefore delivered them.
Did the delivery of the Christmas trees to Mr. Dearborn cost the town any money?
No, there was never a bill, which I normally get the receipt when I drop off the trees, and we forward it to the town, so the town knows what they're supposed to pay. You know, it's just a weighted receipt. And there was no receipts, no nothing, and there was nothing.
Was there any surcharge?
No.
Any delivery charge?
No.
So no added expense to the town?
It was zero.
And the delivery of the trees to Mr. Dearborn as opposed to harvest saved the town somewhere in the range of $400?
Well, yeah, $380 over the prior year.
Right, whatever it would have been in 2014.
Okay, and I neglected to ask you if you wanted to talk to Lenny Norton about what he's talked about. Do you have any questions for Mr.? No. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Could you do me one favor?
Sure.
I don't know who's in charge of the building, but on the third bar down, the flag is ripped. If they could replace or repair it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
We know what's important. Thank you.
Okay, now. Is a representative from Scott's? Never called back, no? We did send a formal invitation, and Tom, you were in charge of that.
I called to get the invitation, they informed me since we weren't from the state, they were going to talk.
I guess that's a no. Okay, we're going to start with you want to break? A motion, a short recess. Second.
And state your name and residence.
My name is Denise Menard. I live at 73 Miller Road in Broadbrook.
And your official title.
I'm the first selectman.
And Ms. Menard, I'm going to read just an introductory statement that is applied to the rest of the selectmen that are here. If you all listen up, please. I don't want to repeat it every time. So, just we have some more questions for all of you about some facts we want to gather. And this is a fact-finding commission. That's all we want. We're not seeking your opinion on any issue. We simply want to learn about relevant facts related to the ethics claims being made against Selectman Dearborn. From what we've heard, and what is issues related to Mr. Dearborn's conduct. Number one, his agreement with Scott Transportation that allegedly benefited his business. Number two, his agreement to take town Christmas trees for mulch last year. Number three, his conduct at Board of Selectmen meetings related to the Wagner Sports World dispute. Number four, his conduct at Selectmen's meetings related to his speaking on personnel issues when they had not been noticed for the meeting and when the affected employees were not previously informed. Number five, whether he violated the rules related to executive sessions. And number six, his conduct in opposing Mr. Baker for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll take each issue one at a time, and unless there's some overlapping other topics. And of course, we'll have Laurie, Whitten, and Robin Newton respond after each, if they wish to, after each. I see. And
Would you like the three of us to step out, and so that we're...
Sequester?
Yeah.
I don't really believe it's necessary, Jason. I think you can handle this.
Would you mind stepping in and getting a paper towel for a minute?
Yeah.
The chairman spilled.
I spilled my jacket. That's all. No, I love it. Sorry about that.
Nancy, go ahead, I'll check the kitchen. There's a dish towel in there.
There we go. Thank you so much. So,
Here's toilet paper.
this might be appropriate. Anyway,
Favorite, that's not bribery.
it's under $10. Thank you so much. Thank you. We can do the dishes later. Thank you.
Thank you.
That won't happen again, Judge. All right. We're going to start with the Scott Transportation issue. Ms. Menard. First, regarding the Scott Transportation issue, are you aware of any facts relating to Mr. Dearborn using his selectman position to further his business relationship with Scott Transportation?
As a selectman, he has refused to do liaison reports as they are usually done, which is to share with the rest of the selectmen what other boards and commissions are doing, and instead uses that time to speak his mind on various things. One of those times, he advocated for Scott Transportation.
In what way, Ms. Menard?
He said the business, if I remember, I think he said the business was being picked on by the planner and zoning enforcement officer. And he actually had them in the audience and asked them to stand up, the two people from Scott Transportation to stand up.
Okay. Any other incident that you can recall from your experience there?
No.
Okay. And how did you first become aware of Selectman Dearborn's relationship with Scott Transportation?
That night?
That very night? Okay. Did Selectman Dearborn ever disclose his business relationship with Scott Transportation in any selectman meeting before discussing the land use department's treatment of Scott Transportation?
Not that I recall.
Did Mr. Dearborn ever recuse himself from discussing or acting on any matter related to Scott Transportation?
He refused to recuse himself from any issue, so across the board, no.
Was he advised to do so?
Yes,
And he still refused?
yes.
All right, we're going to move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
A couple follow-up questions. In response to your last answer to the chairman's question, who advised Mr. I'm going to ask multiple questions so you can answer,
Okay.
even though some attorneys in the room would object. Who advised Mr. Dearborn to recuse himself from matters? What matters was he advised to recuse himself from? When was he advised? And
I suggested that he recuse himself from matters when I saw that they were headed down either a personal attack toward individuals or for his gain.
When did you do that?
During the meetings, when he would start his reports and it, for instance, headed down the Scott Transportation Road or other matters like that.
Time frame for when the first time that you would have advised him not to?
He hadn't been in office very long. I don't recall when, but it wasn't very long. He said his take on it was that it was his right to speak whatever he wanted.
And just following up on the chairman's question regarding Mr. Dearborn's relationship with Scott Transportation. At some point in time, did you learn that he had a business relationship with Scott, that Mr. Dearborn had a relationship with Scott Transportation?
He told us that he did.
That same night?
Yes.
When that night?
He said, they are my tenant.
Before or after he spoke about them being picked on?
During that conversation, during that presentation of his.
Okay, so he disclosed that they were his tenant, and he stated that well, what did he say exactly about being picked on, if you recall? Or to the best of your
I
knowledge?
don't recall.
Okay. But the land use department personnel were picking on Scott Transportation, is what he said?
Yes.
And did he say
I
how?
think he called it a witch hunt. He's called it a witch hunt a number of times. I don't know if he did at that meeting. We may have audio tapes of those meetings.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just for the record, Mrs. Menard, all these events you're speaking of occurred during the open public session of the meetings?
Correct.
Not during an executive session?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, can I just one other question? Was Scott at the meeting when Selectman Dearborn discussed Scott Transportation, was a discussion of Scott Transportation on the agenda?
No.
Was a discussion of the conduct of the town's land use department on the
No.
agenda? Thank you.
Any other, yes?
Is there a special format a selectmen's report is supposed to be given?
At the beginning of each Board of Selectmen's terms, we go over a list of boards and commissions that we ask, it's been traditional that the first selectman and the Board of Selectmen agree to have the Board of Selectmen divide the boards and commissions up, and each selectman, they volunteer, in fact, we just went over it not that long ago again, who is going to represent the Board of Selectmen at these various boards and commissions. It's stated very clearly then, and I've stated it probably 5 or 6 times to this particular Board of Selectmen, that their job is to go to those meetings and take back to the Board of Selectmen, since not all of us can be at every meeting, but we do oversee the entire town functions, so it's good for the Board of Selectmen to be aware, for instance, what's going on at Planning and Zoning, or what's going on at the Ethics Board, but I don't think we have liaison for this one, but that kind of thing. So American Heritage River, all of the boards and commissions, so that we're kept informed of the activities of the different boards and commissions. That's pretty clearly stated.
How is it stated? Are you not allowed to speak about other topics?
It's encouraged that you, if you're a liaison means you're going from one board to another.
No, I'm saying in your selectmen's report, are you limited to only talking about those meetings, or can you talk about other topics?
I guess, depending on what the topic is.
And I want to go back to something Steve Dearborn said last week. He says, you told Mr. Dearborn he should not speak out at zoning board of appeals meetings as a selectman and just be there to listen. Did you tell him that?
Yes, I would have.
Okay, Laurie or Robin, any questions?
No.
Okay.
We have more questions.
Oh, yes.
the last meeting that he had approached us when we were doing the Windows project. Windows project was about 4 or 5 years ago. And I did recall, in fact, I can picture we were in the conference room, in the meeting room at the time, that he did mention something offhandedly. However, at the time, he was a delinquent taxpayer, and we don't do business with delinquent taxpayers, so we did not go any further with it. He did not, last year, approach me in any way. He did talk to the Director of Public Works,
That's
Lenny Orton, and Len came to me and said, I don't know exactly what to do. We talked about it a little. I said, this needs to be hands-off. This is not our contract. The disposal contract is not, the disposal of the trees is not our business. If he wants to do business with USA Hauling or All American Waste, that's his business and not ours, and that he should contact the hauler themselves.
So it's fair to say that you're not aware of whether an agreement was struck between Mr. Dearborn and the town's hauling contractor?
I don't know what the agreement was, but he did report on it at a...
He did? You said he did?
He did report on it at a Board of Selectmen's meeting in his liaison reports.
Could you explain what he said?
He said that he received the town's Christmas trees. I asked him what he did with them. He said, well, what do you think I did with them? I used them for mulch. And I asked him what he did with the mulch, and he said, what do you think I did with it? I sold it.
Was that between you and him alone, or did they?
No, it was at a selectmen's
At a
meeting.
selectmen's meeting, okay. During an open?
Open session.
And was there ever a vote taken on?
No.
No vote. Okay. Any questions about the tree issue from anyone?
Actually, I have just one. Are you aware whether or not the town has any policies, procedures, or protocols governing when the selectmen can do business with a town contractor, separate and apart from the town's ethics ordinance?
I'm not sure if there's something in the charter.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, again, Laurie or Robin? Okay. Laurie, Whitten, and Robin Newton indicate they have no questions, further questions. And again, I'll reiterate that Steve Dearborn, Selectman Dearborn left on his own accord. Let's go into the Wagner Sports World issue. Okay. Claims have been made that Mr. Dearborn spoke out during the selectmen's meetings regarding the litigation between the town, Mr. Wagner, and the Sports World facility, and he did so in a way to favor his friend Donnie Wagner. Do you recall Mr. Dearborn ever speaking out about that litigation during the selectmen meeting?
Yes.
What did he say?
If you have minutes, you've got a much more accurate recollection than I would.
We do have the minutes.
I can verify that they're correct. They were approved minutes, so.
Okay, maybe we can get that from other selectmen, because we started looking for that through this. You have it? Nancy's supposed to have everything right.
Yes.
Kathy?
Can she speak to what she recalls?
She just did.
I don't really recall the specifics of what he said.
That's what she just said, that's why.
I'm sorry, I just thought you said that it would be better.
Yeah. He says a lot. minutes are extremely accurate.
Yes.
And I do recall being quite offended with him saying, I think there's a little bit of shadiness going on here, because I thought, I have no idea what he's talking about. You want me to read the paragraph?
Would you read it into the record, yes?
Okay. My report tonight doesn't have to do with any commissions, but it does have to do with a local business, has to do with a local farmer, okay? And I'm very aggravated about it, and I
Ms.
want...
Menard, that's Mr. Dearborn.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Selectman Dearborn on the December 16th minutes. And I'm very aggravated about it, and I want the public to know about it. Anybody who read the JI yesterday read the story about Donnie Wagner. Now, Donnie has been keeping in touch with me about that issue over there with that bubble, okay? A lot of people come and see me up to the farm over there. I call it Town Hall Substation, that metal building over there. A lot of people come in there when I'm working over there, if I'm working. They come in and they talk to me because they want to get something done, some results done. I have an issue with that sports thing. I don't like the way the town hall is being operated. I think there's a little bit of shadiness going on here. If you read the paper, you know that Don Wagner won, okay? But he chose not to fight it any further, which is a good thing for the town, all right? He's just decided to throw his hands up in the air and give it up. Anybody who knows me, if that was me, that wouldn't have happened because he was pushed around, in my opinion, okay? And like he said, this place ignored him, all right? Bells ringing, okay, here we go. I'd rather see Santa Claus, and Santa Claus actually arrived at that point in the meeting, which kind of broke the tension. It was not a bad thing. We had candy for everyone.
That concludes your...
That's that paragraph.
Okay.
There's no more pages.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yes.
For Selectman Menard? On the next page, and by the way, your testimony is that these minutes are accurate.
Yes.
Next page, Mr. Dearborn said that the thing is, right now, they are operating illegally over there, all right? Do you know who he was referring to?
I think they're called Three Fathers. They might know the name of the group, but it's the sports, yeah, sports.
Okay. And then he said they're being allowed to do so, and if the zoning department was doing their job, they would have to close that business down until they came into compliance, all right? That's what he said.
Yes.
And then he said that the zoning department, quote, they're not doing their job. And then he also commented that the zoning department has put the town in a very precarious position. And then he also said the zoning department is not doing their job, okay? I don't think they're qualified to do their job, and I'm calling for their termination. Is that what he said?
That is what he said.
Is that verbatim what he said?
That is verbatim, and my reaction to that was you need to stop.
Right, I see that. And then he said, no, I'm not stopping. Now, did he advocate for the outsourcing of the zoning, of the land use department, or just the termination of Laurie and Rob?
I never heard anything about outsourcing, only termination of Laurie and Robin.
Was a discussion of the performance of the land use department on the agenda?
No.
Was Ms. Newton or Ms. Whitten given notice that their job performances would be discussed at this public meeting?
No.
Did he eventually stop?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Menard, are you aware of what Mr. Dearborn's relationship is with Mr. Wagner?
They appear to be fairly friendly because a lot of things that Mr. Wagner would send us in emails, and we all know that the Board of Selectmen all know that Steve Dearborn does not do emails. Steve would come to us and state something about those things. So pictures that he had tonight were in an email that was sent to the planning office and to me from Mr. Wagner. He said that he's friendly with him, that he goes down to see him at the farm. He actually had a sign not that long ago. Mr. Dearborn had a sign at Mr. Wagner's property saying re-elect Steve Dearborn within the last month.
Was the Wagner litigation issue, was it ever discussed during an executive session, do you recall?
I don't recall that it was. I stopped discussing some things in executive session if I knew that Mr. Dearborn was a part of it, because he did not honor executive session.
Okay, that leads me into my next thought here, and it's a longer question. Are you aware whether or not Mr. Dearborn ever discussed confidential matters pertaining to the Wagner litigation that were discussed during the executive session with third parties outside of the executive session?
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Okay. Laurie, Whitten, or Robin, no? Do you have any responses
I just want to,
on the Wagner issue?
yeah, I just want to give to Denise, this is labeled D3 in your packets that we gave you.
A3?
D.
D like dog.
D like dog, yeah. It's minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting from Tuesday, May 6, 2014, and it pertains to comments from Mr. Dearborn about outsourcing the planning department.
Okay. I want you, I'm sorry, Ms. Menard, and Al wanted to ask a question that's relevant to your...
Oh, sure.
Yes, thank you. On the outsourcing issue that came up earlier, looking at those May 6, 2014 minutes, there's Mr. Dearborn said that this is the way it's going to work, if people have to go through commissions 2 times to try to get things done. He thinks we need to take a hard look at who is on the payroll here. He said maybe it is time to outsource. Would you consider that accurate?
It's in our minutes, so yes, it's accurate.
All right, thank you.
Anyone, Kathy or Tom or Nancy?
Did you know Mr. Osborne, Mr. Dearborn, to ever give any other information from an executive session or impart any information from another executive session to anyone about anything?
Actually, I do. We had a tax issue that was discussed in executive session. That was a pretty complex matter, and I wanted the entire board to weigh in on it. I was not aware of the friendship or relationship with what appeared to be Mr. Dearborn at that time with the taxpayer, and the next day the taxpayer appeared to know information that had been discussed in the executive session.
And did that impact any type of negotiations with the taxpayer on paying the taxes then?
It certainly didn't help.
It did.
The answer was it certainly
It didn't help.
How do you know Steve that gave information? Is there,
Mr. Dearborn actually came into the meeting, our next meeting, with the only copy, or a copy of an original of the lawsuit that was served to the taxpayer.
Okay, again, I'm going to go back to Laurie and
first started being the selectman, he stopped using their names. He's called them those birds. He's called them those ladies across the hall. He's called them, you know who I'm talking about.
During the Board of Selectmen's executive sessions, since you've realized that information was leaked or used, have you changed the way you handle executive session?
Yes.
And how have you changed that?
At the beginning of every executive session, I have notes of the executive session myself to just help me recall what I'm going to ask the selectmen about or report on. And at the top of it, I have in big red letters, reminder, executive session, all the information is to stay in this room. Sometimes I would hand out maybe some backup information to help them understand something. I no longer have any backup information to hand out to any selectmen. I still continue to caution them that they can't say anything, but I have limited the amount of things that I bring to executive session.
Okay, so that has impacted the way you run the town.
It does, because I have to protect our legal interest in the town. So.
And do you know of any other incidences other than this one?
Yes.
There are other incidences that he's taken information from an executive session.
Spoken about labor negotiations outside of executive session, that it would get back to me from other sources.
So the labor negotiations with the town union.
So I'm pretty careful what I share.
Joshua?
Do you recall how soon into Mr. Dearborn's tenure as a selectman that he began criticizing Ms. Whitten and Ms. Newton? How early into his...
It was pretty early on, but I don't really recall exactly when.
Was he currently involved in litigation against the town at the same time that he was criticizing the land use department personnel?
Yes.
And so while he was litigating against the town, he would be criticizing the department that was suing him.
Criticize the department, criticize the town attorney, criticize...
No.
He criticized me.
He should have heard what he said in court, too. But, all right, and so did he disclose at these public, withdraw, did he, sorry, I'm going to the lawyer mode after
Flustered
this.
now.
This was during a public selectmen's meeting?
Yes.
And did he disclose the fact that he was litigating against the town at the time, on land use issues at the time he criticized Ms. Whitten and Ms. Newton?
I don't recall. But knowing the way I operate, I would think I would have cautioned him that this was a litigation matter and that he needs to be careful. I've said a lot of times to him to be careful what he's talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Laurie, sorry, I kind of called you, but I think you might have some comments to make, Laurie or Robin? No? Okay. Denise covered a lot of ground there. Comments. Is there anything else of relevance you want to add from your experience?
No.
Okay. Ms. Menard, there's an issue with Mr. Baker and an election process. Could you, do you have any knowledge or facts about what Mr. Dearborn said about Mr. Baker at a public hearing? Why Mr. Dearborn did not vote for him? So, could you just...
It was an appointment to, I think, the Inland Wetlands Commission. We standardly do appointments to boards and commissions, and I don't recall his comment, but again, it was in the minutes, and I'm sure the comments are correctly reflected. I don't really recall what they were.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the panel? Big, well, anything you want.
I want to go back to something Steve Dearborn talked about last week again. He spoke that he thinks your reasoning for moving the selectmen reports to the end of the meeting were because of him. What were your reasonings for moving the selectmen reports to the end of the meetings?
Because of him.
Okay, Al or Kathy on the other end there?
Can I clarify?
Yes,
a teeny
please,
bit?
go ahead.
The selectmen's reports had become so disruptive that it had become sort of a spectacle at the beginning of the meeting, and we weren't getting business done, that we had people, a lot of sometimes very important people. In fact, one time that I recall, we have to figure out a way to fix this. We had the whole back row was state police officers, and they looked quite surprised at the representation for the town. They listened to the selectmen's reports. I gave mine. I think the next person is the deputy first selectman, and then we go alphabetically, so Steve Dearborn would have been third. And I don't remember what night that was, but it would have been the night that the state police made their presentation on the possibility of a firing range in town. And it was one of the times that I'm pretty sure he called for the firing of the planner and the assistant planner. And maybe not that long after that, I thought maybe a way to just alleviate some of the attention that was being gotten by that was to put it at the end of the meeting. Anybody could stay for the meeting and could listen to the report, but at least it wouldn't disrupt the rest of our business.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Because you're no longer able to have an executive session with your board, that has had to have a significant impact on how you're doing business and for the town and the resources that are available or should be available to you. Can you comment on, I mean, the rest of the board needs to know what's going on. So I guess I'm curious as to how that's impacted how you have to do business and the decisions that you have to make. Am I okay?
I guess I'm just more careful how I share the information. I might brainstorm with the deputy first more, and that's a more one-on-one. I may rely on the town attorney on things more.
Which would cost taxpayers.
Right.
Anybody else on the panel? Laurie, Robin?
I was wondering if you could explain what the proper process for discussing personnel issues is with the Board of Selectmen at a public meeting?
At a public meeting?
Or at a Board of Selectmen meeting?
The personnel need to be notified, and it would be done in executive session unless they voted to have it in open session. Thank you.
Unless who would be the
Unless the,
people
so
involved?
let's say they want to, let's say Kathy is an employee, and we need to discuss a Kathy matter. I would have to tell Kathy that we're discussing her matter, and tell her that we could discuss it in executive session unless she wants to discuss it in open session. And if she chooses to discuss it in open session, usually I would maybe caution a little depending on what the issue is. You know, are you sure you want to do that? It's up to them.
Up to
The
personnel.
It would be up to Kathy. Right.
Denise, have you ever made Laurie and I aware of any personnel issue that was going to be talked about on the Board of Selectmen agenda, or was there any?
No.
this point, but he's, again, he voluntarily left. I guess, anything else you want to say before we let you go? Thank you. Ms.
Thank you.
Menard. We'd like to have Mr. Selectman Jim Richards come up, please. Jeff, before you sit down, will you raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Selectman Richards, without going through the whole introductory speech again, just a reminder, we're not seeking any opinion on any issue that we're going to ask you about. We simply want to learn about relevant facts related to the ethics claim being made against Mr. Dearborn. And I'm going to begin, I'm going to kind of abbreviate. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Nancy. Could you state your full name, please?
James Richards,
And your address?
27 Pleasant Street, East Windsor.
And your title, please?
Selectman.
All right. And thank you, Nancy. And we're going to start with the Scott transportation issues. And are you aware of any facts that relate to Mr. Dearborn using his first selectman position to further his business relationship with Scott Transportation?
Can you use the mic?
Sure, sorry.
Is it on there? Is it on?
Yeah.
All right. That's all right.
Not sure what the question means. I'm aware that Scott Transportation was located in his facility.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. I'm not trying to avoid
No,
that.
I understand. Maybe you just don't have an answer. That's fine.
That would probably be other than that. That's pretty much the
Did he use his first selectman position? Have you ever witnessed any facts or circumstances that you can relate to us? Did he use his first selectman position to further his business relationship with Scott Transportation?
The conversation that he had at the public meeting was probably inappropriate.
All right. Could you specify what that conversation was?
The whole discussion, First Selectman Menard had discussed earlier, how you had Scott Transportation there. Certainly, if he wanted something on the agenda, he can certainly contact the First Selectman, and my experience is it's been added. So if he really wanted to have those gentlemen there and have that discussion in public, it could have been done.
Did he, to your knowledge, did he ever disclose his business relationship with Scott Transportation at any selectmen's meeting?
At a select, I believe that night would be the first time, but again, I was aware of the company being located within his facility and being his tenant.
To your knowledge, did Mr. Dearborn ever recuse himself from discussing or acting on any matter related to Scott Transportation?
No.
Never? Okay. No. Just, if you bear with me, we're going to go over the Christmas tree. There's not much to go over there, but...
Just say, I don't know anything
Good.
about that.
Excellent. How about Wagner Sports World issues?
He did bring those up in the meetings, and again, I felt they were inappropriate, that if he wanted to bring those matters to the Board of Selectmen, he had several options. He could, in regards to the actual sports world, he could have asked to have it on the agenda. He could have also called for an executive session if he wished to discuss the personnel.
Okay. Did you ever recall Mr. Dearborn ever speaking about the pending litigation during selectmen meetings with Wagner Sports World?
I honestly don't know if it was during selectmen meeting. I've heard that's like big news around town, so I probably wouldn't be able to answer that honestly.
Would you have any awareness of his relationship with Mr. Wagner? Friends?
I believe they're lifelong friends as most.
Lifelong? Did you say lifelong friends?
Well, as most people are, they grew up in town here. I believe Mr. Wagner's from town, and so is Steve.
Was the Wagner litigation ever discussed in executive session, to your knowledge?
Not to my recollection.
And I mean, this can go on, this question can go on with it. Are you aware of whether or not Mr. Dearborn ever discussed confidential matters pertaining to the Wagner litigation that were discussed during the executive session with third parties outside of the executive session?
I never witnessed nor heard him discussing what was discussed in executive session.
Would you have any knowledge of any time about any issue?
On any issue, I'm not friends with Steve outside of
but does anybody want to jump in? Go ahead, Nancy.
Would you consider Mr. Dearborn's behavior at Board of Selectmen's meetings inappropriate?
Several times I've actually cut him off.
You have cut him off also.
And I actually was asked by him the next day why I cut him off, and I told him because I felt you were going where you shouldn't go.
Okay, did you ever know that police presence had ever been asked to be in the parking lot or anything during the Board of Selectmen's meeting?
Well, Steve got a little wound a few times. It wouldn't surprise me. I wasn't aware if it was called or not. I don't recall.
Okay.
Anyone else? Just where I'm at, I'm going to go on to another topic. And, Laurie and Robin, I'm going to go on to another topic.
Yes.
This has to deal with Mr. Dearborn at the selectmen meetings and is dealing with criticizing certain personnel at work in town hall. And you recollect Mr. Dearborn ever criticizing town employees during selectmen's meetings?
Yes.
And whom was that?
Would be the planning and zoning department person.
That would be Laurie Whitten and Robin Newton. Yes, okay. And when was it done? Was it done during the public part of the meeting or the executive session part?
It was done during the
Public. Do we recall any words he said?
No, because usually when Steve would start down those paths, I try to close my ears and not hear it.
Okay. Did you ever witness him making a statement such as that Laurie Whitten's employment with the town should be terminated?
I believe there was something along that lines, but verbatim I couldn't tell you.
And during the public session?
Yes, I believe so.
And what about Robin Newton? Did he ever say that about her also?
I believe so. Again, when he would start on these tirades during his, I'm unfortunately the last guy of the selectmen's report, so we're about midway through, and I knew once he started, I would be 40 minutes before I would have my turn, so.
Are you serious? He'd go on for 40 minutes?
Well, I'm probably
30 minutes?
exaggerating, but it would get to the point that I was glad when the first selectman suggested that we move those reports to the end of the meeting, even though it meant I was the last thing of the night and the last thing anybody wanted to hear from.
Yep. Here, Josh.
I just want to follow up on that statement. Can you explain to the commission, from your perspective, what the purpose of being a Board of Selectmen liaison to the other boards and commissions is?
I think it's to develop better communication between those boards and the boards of selectmen. If they're having a difficulty or, just to create better lines of communications, it's to let us know what's going on. And as stated, we all can, if we had to attend every meeting every night, we would have no personal life at all.
And what's the purpose of your report as a Board of Selectmen liaison?
To bring back to the Board of Selectmen, everything from where maybe a situation that requires our attention, something good that's happening. I've served on many of the commissions. Some had some problems that the Board of Selectmen needed to look at, and we solved them.
And is that how you served as a liaison?
Yes.
And how you reported?
Tried to, yeah.
And to the best of your knowledge, is that how Mr. Bowswood reported as a liaison?
Absolutely.
And Dale as well? And was the first selectman liaison to any of those?
She actually does a report first that's informative of us. It tells us everything from basically what the day-to-day operation for the last 2 weeks have been. If there's new updates on projects we're working from, whether it be a mill cleanup or something going on with the reservoir with algae or something that we're not aware of on the day-to-day operations.
And Mr. Dearborn did not report in the same fashion?
Once in a while he would, other times he would take that time to, I'm not better to put it, soapbox his causes.
Including advocating for the termination of Ms. Whitten?
Yes, again, I don't recall when that, but I can recall those kinds of words coming out of his mouth, yes.
When that personnel item was not on the agenda?
Correct.
And when, to the best of your knowledge, the affected personnel had not been given
No, they were not given proper notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Laurie and Robin, you have anything to add?
No?
No?
No.
Oh, we have one. Tom?
As a liaison to other commissions, have you ever been told not to speak out as a selectman at those meetings?
We've been urged not to. There's many times that those commissions will ask a question or say, Jim, can you answer this question? But usually you're there to just be quiet, listen, and certainly if they ask for an interaction, provide that to them. One interaction I had recently was when the superintendent of schools returned to town after being off on personal time. I certainly sat there as a board of selectmen and welcomed her back to town and thanked Dr. DeBarge for the good work she did while Dr. Kane was gone.
Al or Kathy? Okay, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, actually, I've worked with the town planner for many years through Economic Development Commission. I found her to be, well, sometimes we go into deep water that nobody treaded in before. I found her to be receptive to the commission, the Economic Development Commission, and Robin, in my capacity with the town's chamber, sign issues are always fun, and I found her, for the most part, to be very professional.
Tom has one more.
I dug my hole, didn't I?
In working with Mr. Dearborn, have you ever considered it a hostile work environment?
In working with Mr. Dearborn, other than when his selectmen, I have to be honest, Mr. Dearborn at times can be a very generous man. I know when the Five Corner Cupboard required some money for their van recently, he went into his pocket and gave it up. However, there is, when you are a selectman of a town, you have to, act in certain, discretion. And certainly when it comes to personnel, whether it's a town or in business, you do not have discussion of personnel matters on the floor.
Have you ever felt hostility towards yourself?
Toward me?
Yeah.
Just when he asked me why I cut him off, but.
Everybody else? Thank you, Mr. Richards.
Thank you.
We have Selectman Dale Nelson, please.
Can I like offend you guys or something?
You have someplace to go? Saving the best for last.
Now, we got extra hard questions.
Yeah, got a whole, got to raise your right hand.
Let's start with stating your name and address, and then I'll swear you in.
Dale Nelson, 51 Amelia Road, Rockbrook, Connecticut.
Your position again?
Board of Selectmen.
And raise your right hand, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Dale, just a reminder, I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but we're not seeking your opinion on any issue. We simply want to learn about relevant facts related to the ethics claims being made against Selectman Dearborn. And we'll get into the Scott transportation issues. Are you aware of any facts related to Mr. Dearborn using his first here, the selectman position to further his business relationship with Scott Transportation?
The first time I was made aware of anything was when Mr. Dearborn spoke during the public participation aspect of the Board of Selectmen's reports, is when he brought it up. I didn't know anything prior to that.
Did Selectman Dearborn ever disclose his business relationship with Scott Transportation at any selectmen's meeting before discussing? You said no, you never discussed it.
It all happened in one night.
All right, okay. Did he ever recuse himself from any discussion?
No.
And let's look at some Christmas trees here.
Let's just clarify one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So you heard the testimony earlier from First Selectman Menard and Selectman Richards regarding what was said about Scott Transportation. Do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Do you disagree with what the prior testimony was, or what the minutes say?
What the minutes say reflects exactly what transpired that evening.
Did Mr. Dearborn ever mention or approach you or anybody about his desire to have the town hauling contractor deliver the town's
No.
Christmas trees? Not you? Do you know about any discussion with Len Norton on this issue?
No.
Then I'm certain you wouldn't be aware of any agreement struck.
No.
And you would not have any knowledge of him taking town's Christmas trees for his mulching business?
Nope.
No, really? Okay, did the Board of Selectmen ever vote?
No.
Anybody want to jump in before I move on? No? Okay. Wagner Sports World, the bubble. The claim has been made that Mr. Dearborn spoke out during Selectmen's meetings regarding the litigation between the town, Mr. Wagner, and the Sports World facility, and that he did so in a way to favor his friend Donnie Wagner. Do you recall Mr. Dearborn ever speaking out about the litigation during a Selectmen's meeting?
Oh, yes.
During the public session?
During the public session, which would have been his Board of Selectmen report.
Do you recall anything he said?
Oh, he says so much. It would be reflected in the minutes. They're pretty accurate because we approved them as a board.
Okay, would we agree that we've gone over that and it's been part of, it's made an exhibit here? Did he ever mention, do you recall any, Mr. Dearborn mentioning anything about the land use departments, specifically Laurie, Whitten, and Robin Newton, their handling of this Wagner situation?
Those girls, or he never spoke of Robin or Laurie in a very positive manner. He never gave them the respect that they deserved.
Are you aware of Mr. Dearborn's relationship with Mr. Wagner?
He had said that they had been friends for a long time. Again, during an open session of his report.
Was the litigation on this issue ever discussed in executive session?
No.
Are you aware whether or not Mr. Dearborn ever discussed confidential matters pertaining to the Wagner litigation that were discussed during the executive session with third parties? Okay, but is she aware of it though?
No.
She might have been there. You know? Okay, anybody on Wagner issues?
Did you ever try to stop Mr. Dearborn, or was it during one of his?
Between Jim Richards, who sat right next to him, and Denise requesting him to please stop and refrain, I did not. There were enough people that could handle it.
Oh, and it doesn't sound like you were handling it. If he's going on for 30 minutes or 40 minutes,
Well,
okay.
No, really. Okay, move on into another area. Anything else? Robin? Let's talk about Mr. Dearborn's criticizing personnel, employees, town employees, or other elected employees. Did Mr. Dearborn ever criticize town employees during an open public selectmen's meeting?
yes, Laurie and Robin.
Laurie and Robin Newton, Laurie Whitten.
Right.
Okay. Do you recall any specifics what he said about them?
That they didn't know what they were doing, that they weren't properly trained. Again, all very negative.
Did he ever say their employment should be terminated during an open public?
Yes.
Did he say, well, you had said why? Because he felt that they were not competent?
Correct.
Was a discussion of the land use personnel ever on the selectmen's agenda when he spoke about them?
No.
Were they, to your knowledge, were they provided a notice that they were going to be on discussion there?
There couldn't have been. There was no notice or agenda item or even added agenda item. So there was no way to notify the personnel.
Did you say anything to Selectman Dearborn when this was happening? Did you say anything to them, to Mr. Dearborn?
It was inappropriate, obviously, but
Did you tell him that?
I WPAD, I took over WPCA because Mr. Dearborn felt that it was not worth for him to attend because he couldn't speak his mind.
And when you reported, what was your methodology of reporting to the Board of Selectmen on your liaison?
I reported what I heard. I gave the flavor of the meeting. Sometimes the minutes don't reflect the whole meeting itself. So I would give flavor of the meeting and report the meeting. That was it. Not my opinion, just for what was stated at the meeting.
And was Mr. Dearborn's conduct, when he gave his report, disruptive to the Board of Selectmen's meeting?
It absolutely was. There was no form, or there was, you never knew what was going to be said during his reports for the board, the liaison meetings.
Were you here when Mr. Dearborn said that it was like acting like a monkey being a
Oh,
liaison?
yes, he said that many times. He said it at open session, he said that.
You mean at Board of Selectmen's meetings?
Yep,
You said?
yep. So I'm one of those monkeys.
Laurie?
Nothing.
Robin? Nothing? Once again, anything else on the wrap up, summarize anything?
Well, the night of the elections, after 8 o'clock, when Mr. Dearborn was proclaimed the winner on the Board of Selectmen, he publicly stated out in the corridor that he was going to get, now that he was a selectman, he was going to get those broads. I can only assume that he was referring to Laurie and Robin because of his animosity towards the two ladies, and I have heard him refer to the ladies as such before.
Dale, are there any other people within earshot of that?
Oh, there was a whole group of people. I don't know who was around. I just happened to be right behind him when he said it. He didn't know that I was there. It was an earshot. I mean, anybody who was close enough could have heard him because his volume.
You didn't see any other reaction from anybody?
No, I think there were a few giggles, but
Do you think that was one of the reasons he decided to run for selectman?
I have no clue what goes on in his head.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Steve, did you say you were going to get those broads?
Okay, again, Laurie and Robin, no follow-up. And once again, Mr. Dearborn is not here, otherwise he'd be called to.
Oh, yeah, he certainly.
Thank you very much, Steve. And Jason?
Anybody else?
Jason Bowser?
We may have a surprise with
You raise your right hand, Jason. State your name and your address
Jason Edward Bowser, 34 Rye Street, Providence,
and your title.
Deputy First Selectman.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Jason. We covered a lot here, Jason, so just relax. We're going to try to skim through this. We don't want to be too redundant here. We're going to talk about Scott Transportation first there, 95 Rice Street in Crawford. Okay. Good.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Are you aware of any facts related to Mr. Dearborn using his selectman position to further his business relationship with Scott Transportation?
I wasn't until the night that he made reference to them being tenants. I did know he owned a small industrial park on Rye Street because I live on Rye Street. I can drive past it, I run past it.
To your knowledge, did he ever use his position to, gain favor with his tenant?
Other than his comments the night of the selectmen's meeting, I have no knowledge.
Okay.
If
Did he ever approach you or ask you personally regarding his desire to have the town hauling contractor deliver trees, Christmas trees discarded at the side of the road to his mulching business?
No.
He's okay. He has to hear this. Oh, could I have a brief recess? So we have. Okay.
Second?
All those in favor? All those opposed? We're going to recess for 5 minutes. I don't know why Tom left. Tom Burnham left the room at 8:30 p.m. Unanimously. Okay, Jason, we'll continue. Try to make it easier here, right? On the tree issue, do you have anything, do you disagree with any? Oh, my goodness. My goodness, we're dropping like flies. We'll continue the recess then, till our stenographer comes back.
You said 5 minutes.
Let me quickly move to go back into regular session. Second? All those in favor? Any disagreement? So moved unanimously. Okay. Jason, you've heard the testimony of the other selectmen. You're same questions I want to ask you. And you've heard about the minutes that were referenced and all the other testimony. Have you any opinions, either pro or con? Do you agree with it? What was said, the testimony so far?
So I'm under the impression I'm not supposed to be.
No opinions, just do you agree with the prior testimony of the selectmen?
Yes.
And the minutes are accurate?
The minutes are accurate.
Read into the record.
To the best of my recollection, the minutes are accurate.
Do you have anything additional that you want to talk about now? We talked about Wagner, the sports world issue, and the executive session issue, the disclosure of executive session stuff, and criticism of personnel, specifically Robin Newton and Laurie Whitten. You want to wrap that up yourself?
I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't have anything to elaborate.
Okay. I have some questions here. Your position as Deputy First Selectman, have you ever had to run an official Board of Selectmen's meeting?
Yes.
Have you ever witnessed Mr. Dearborn breaking confidentiality rules that are in effect when an executive session is called?
Not to the best of my recollection.
Can you provide us with details regarding some of the instances that this has been apparent?
I don't have.
These are unedited, I'm sorry, they were just handed to me. During the selectmen's meetings, during the selectmen meeting, has Mr. Dearborn ever publicly stated that Robert Newton and or Laurie Whitten should be fired or terminated?
Yes.
To your knowledge, did Mr. Dearborn make those employees aware of his intent to speak about them at this meeting?
Not to my knowledge.
And, okay. And they weren't part of the agenda, they weren't on the agenda, and they weren't noticed?
In the time I've been a selectman, I don't recall a personnel item involving either of the women to my left, either Mrs. Newton or Ms. Whitten ever being on the agenda.
Okay, anybody else?
Did you ever know that there was a police presence, because Mr. Dearborn might get a little excited during a meeting,
I knew that there were police that were in the very near vicinity, and that they were alerted that there may be potential for an altercation.
Did you ever witness Mr. Dearborn lose his temper?
Yes.
Enough that would require police presence?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it? What did he do? I don't know. What did he do?
Well, there have been a handful of occasions similar to this evening, but that's in my judgment, those were instances where I would have been comfortable having at least the police aware of what was going on. The instance that I was aware that the police were notified did not involve a blow-up from Mr. Dearborn.
Okay.
Anyone else? Kathy Bill?
Okay, when acting in your position as deputy selectman, when you have run an official board of selectmen's meeting, have you ever had an opportunity, or was there ever a time when Mr. Dearborn was speaking something that was inappropriate or out of line during that meeting when you were running it?
In the time I've been on the Board of Selectmen, serving as Deputy First Selectman, I've run 2 meetings. Both were the first May meetings, one in 2014, one in 2015. At the meeting in 2015, Mr. Dearborn was not in attendance. And I'm foggy on the one in May of 2014, but I do remember him making a comment that I was in charge for now.
That you were in charge for now? Okay, but nothing in regards to the other testimony that's happened tonight where you may have stepped in and also attempted to stop him from continuing in any of those conversations?
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
I'd have to check the minutes to be sure, but not to my recollection.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any personal knowledge regarding Mr. Dearborn's relationship with Donald Wagner?
Not that I know to be true. Just the anecdotal things that you hear from folks, as somebody who's been in town my whole life, that you hear about other folks who've been in town their whole life. I don't know them to be true. I don't know that they have a personal relationship.
You don't know whether they're
I believe that they do, but I don't know that.
You don't know personally whether they're good friends or
I don't know that.
Okay. And I think you answered this question. No, you're not aware of whether or not Mr. Dearborn ever disclosed executive session information outside of the executive session to third parties?
I don't know that for certain.
Okay.
I know that there were some concerns that there was some information discussed in executive session that was being made public after the fact. I don't know for certain that it was Mr. Dearborn who was leaking.
And tonight there was a lot of discussion regarding Mr. Dearborn's conduct during his liaison reports. How, from a factual standpoint, did Mr. Dearborn's conduct affect the running of the Board of Selectmen's meetings?
So as was discussed by the 3 selectmen who preceded me, we follow a pretty standard model, trying to report back to the full board on the goings-on in town over the last couple of weeks. Mr. Dearborn definitely deviated from that model, although it's not required that it be done that way. It is long-standing practice that it be done that way. And it became such a disruption to our meetings that it did require the first selectman to place those at the bottom of our agenda instead of the top.
And it was during those liaison reports that he used to advocate for the termination of Ms. Whitten and Ms. Newton.
I'm not sure that that's the only time that he did it, but I do recall him using portions of selectmen's reports to make that the charge, I guess, or to float that idea. I'm not sure if that was the only time that he brought it up at a meeting.
Do you recall whether or not Mr. Dearborn ever made the recommendation of terminating or outsourcing the land use department for economic reasons to benefit the town?
I have heard of that.
And what was the statement? When did he make it, and what was the statement?
So prior to even being sworn in as a selectman, Mr. Dearborn has made very known his poor relationship with the land use department. And he, at different times, has made different arguments. I do recall the comment that Selectman Nelson referenced about now that he's on, he'd be address those issues. I am not sure that I have heard him make the argument that he wants to outsource it for economic reasons, and it has been intimated that he wanted to do it for personal reasons.
Intimated by whom?
Mr. Dearborn.
So he has intimated that he wanted to do it for, you have to explain, what did he say to intimate?
Well, so based on comments that he's made in meetings, he's made it clear that he does not have a lot of faith in the training or professional experience of either the town planner or the assistant town planner, and has made comments suggesting that a change be made.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else here?
Would you ever consider your personal workings with Mr. Dearborn as hostile?
I don't have personal workings with Mr. Dearborn. We've had maybe, in the time that we've been selecting, we've had maybe 4 conversations outside of a selectmen's meeting or immediately after a selectmen's meeting. It's a very small number.
Okay. Anybody else? Robin? Laurie?
No.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna have, do you have any other witnesses? Yes, you can call them. But any other,
Make mine again.
Robin and Laurie, you have any other witnesses you want to call? Or?
No.
Okay. And someone else, any other witnesses have anything you want to wrap up with? No, no. The witnesses. Okay.
No, there's a procedural.
Yeah, I need to talk about the ordinance and what's required now. And, you know, we've kind of passed it around a little bit. An issue of timing of making our decision. And it says in the ordinance we have 30 days in which to, 30 days in which to submit a report to the Board of Selectmen. Our memorandum of decision is called in the ordinance. And I need to ask Robin and Laurie if that's okay, because the length of time. I mean, there's also some mention about 5 days.
Yeah, you want me to explain?
Yeah, would you do that? It gets a little contradictory.
If Mr. Dearborn was here, we would ask him his opinion as well. There's some time limits in the ordinance that, as town attorney, my opinion is that they're directory, not mandatory, but they are stated here. The problem is that on the one part of the ordinance it says that the commission has 30 days to render its decision. In a later part, under the title of procedures for filing a complaint, there's contrary language as to the timing that says we have to, or we, the commission, has to provide parties with a summary of its findings within 3 business days of termination of the hearing, there's typos in there, and make the finding public within 5 business days of termination of the hearing. Again, there's typos there. But earlier in the ordinance it says 30 days, later in the ordinance it says 3 and 5 days. I asked the chairman to poll both sides to make sure that neither one of you have a problem with 30 days for this commission to deliberate and render its decision. Otherwise, you could argue that we have to, or we rather, the commission has to issue a summary, whatever a summary means. It could be a couple sentences within 3 days and make that summary public or the finding public within 5. So I think there's contradictory language in this ordinance as drafted that the commission is going to work on when they redraft this and submit it for review. But right now, there's contrary. So I asked the chairman to ask you whether you have any objection for the commission taking 30 days to render its decision as stated in section 4.3 D, which is a pretty explicit paragraph that goes into the decision process. Now, like I said, I asked the chairman, asked Mr. Dearborn too, but he left the room, so we won't have that. But it's your complaint
I'm fine with it
for 30 days.
for 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
reference about the deliberations being public or an executive session. Generally, the rule is, according to the Freedom of Information Act, or similar personnel issues, and specifically in the Freedom of Information Act, it says that the decision is in executive session unless the, you know what, I just want to look up whether it's the respondent or the complainant who can ask that be made public. I believe it's the respondent. Can you hold on for 1 second? And in any event, if it is the respondent, the commission, I think, intends to deliberate in executive session and release its findings publicly. But I just want to double check to make sure it's his right to ask that the deliberations happen in public. Either way, the decision will be public and a memorandum will be published with this decision. But the issue is deliberations, which could occur just like this, or that they could discuss it privately and more freely. I just want to look it up very quickly to make sure that I have the FOIA correct, that it's Mr. Dearborn's right to ask that it be held in public. Just 1 second. Yeah, in the Freedom of Information Act, under executive sessions, it says discussions concerning, among other things, an appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, dismissal of a public officer or employee to be held in executive session, provided that the individual may require that the discussion be held at an open meeting. So, if the commission decides, and it's up to the commission to make that decision, not me, to hold an executive session, I'd recommend that you discuss that, have a motion on that, to either hold an executive session, not hold an executive session, and send notice to Mr. Dearborn of your decision.
We'll hold on the words in that session.
Do we have a motion on the floor to have the deliberations on this issue held in executive session? Do we have a second? Second. Second by Al, and all those in favor?
If there is.
Any discussion?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm curious if, when we make Mr. Dearborn aware of our decision or our vote right now, because if he has the right to then say, no, he wants it public.
Yeah, I think
He did say earlier,
Yeah.
I want everything public.
Yeah, so I think that once you make this, if the motion passes, you should give him notice, and if he has, if he wants the deliberations to be public, you should have him say so. You have to give a deadline, it's only 30 days to act. So then give him an opportunity to say he wants you to deliberate publicly. Yes, you have to have a meeting to act. But I would send an email, let him know what the.
He doesn't.
He doesn't do email.
Oh.
He doesn't go to the post office to pick up mail.
Well, you timely, I would drop it off at his house or something, because timely, yes.
The second town hall. Go to the second town.
Tom Burton is the delivery guy for that, so you're going to do that. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Second.
Yeah, you're going to vote, you cannot vote in executive session. You have to vote in public, and then you have to issue your decision as a public decision, which is a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Right. Any further discussion? On the motion. You understand the motion? We're going to go and notify, we're going to go into executive session to deliberate and then notify Steve Dearborn of our decision if it passes and he has the option of having it in public.
Well, I'm curious as to what the deadline would be, and that means we can't discuss it at this point, try to deliberate it until we set a date, right?
Correct.
So should we come up with a date for that?
Yeah, that's good. Well, why don't you finish this?
Let's get the motion through.
And then have another one?
Everybody has knowledge of the motion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And
7th is Labor Day, Monday.
8, 9, 10, or 11.
What's on the 8th?
Good for me.
Wednesday, I have the Board of Education meeting on the 9th.
10,
Do
11.
the 8th.
8's good.
I'm concerned about the
8, good.
That's planning and zoning meeting.
10 to 30.
10th is a Thursday, that's usually pretty good day.
Yeah, I have a hospital schedule as well.
10th is good for that big meeting.
No, Kathy.
Okay, number 11.
That's Friday.
I'm okay, right.
Yeah, I have two.
What's that? Well, how about Saturday?
You want to go back to Tuesday?
I'm good with Saturday.
Joshua, probably.
Anyone's good on Saturday at town hall.
I'll move whatever I need to.
For the 8th?
It's set for the 8th.
Okay.
8 looks good.
8th is planning and zoning, isn't it? Yeah.
But we can use your own.
Oh, yes, you can.
But if it's a
Public meeting.
Public
public
meeting,
meeting,
if he wants it public, you have to have those
I can
scheduled.
tell you that he has said on numerous occasions in public
Yeah.
that any discussion with
Okay, so then you need a place at the public and,
Can we divide the all in
any
half?
room.
That's a place.
How are they going to do things?
how about Park Hill?
So the hall here is completely booked?
well, I'd say,
I'm not
why
sure.
why don't we
I
get
don't
the date
schedule
and we
it.
can find the
Say it's-
location?
yeah.
Is that what
We get the date.
8th is a Tuesday?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
7 o'clock on the 8th. Is there school open somewhere?
I'll look for something.
Thank you, Nancy. You're always, so tentatively,
7
Tuesday,
o'clock.
the 8th at 7 o'clock, special meeting, it'll be posted.
Litigation to be the.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. We don't know.
All right, I'll try to find a spot for the 7 o'clock. Public, please. There's the barn.
Even closer.
Okay, can we have a motion to close the hearing? A second?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously, hearing is closed at 8:57 p.m.